So, welcome everyone, and thank you for listening. Today, we are going to explore something that many people carry, but very few have words for it. What happens when you become responsible too soon? Before we begin, let me say this. You can receive what I'm sharing in whatever way works for you. Eyes open or closed, sitting, walking, or doing something. There's no requirement to be still or meditate. Simply be present to what I'm offering and let it land however it lands. Just take what resonates for you and let the rest pass through. Here is what we are exploring today. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from having been responsible, not responsible for age-appropriate things, but responsible for things that were far too big. Responsible for your parents' emotions, for keeping the family stable, for being the one who held it together when everything was falling apart. If you recognize this in yourself, what I want you to know is this: what you experienced has a name. It's called parentification, and the weight you're still carrying, the sense that you're responsible for everyone and everything, that didn't start with you being an anxious or controlling adult. It started with you being a child who had to become an adult before you were ready. So let's explore this now. So parentification is what happens when a child takes on roles and responsibilities that should belong to a parent or another adult. It's when the natural parent-child dynamic reverses and the child becomes the caretaker. This can happen in several ways. Sometimes it's emotional parentification. You become the person your parent confided in about your adult problems. You comforted them when they were sad. You may have to manage their moods because of the environment in the house. Maybe you became their emotional support before you had the capacity to hold that role. And sometimes it's also practical. You took care of a younger sibling, you managed household tasks, maybe even handled finances or dealt with adult institutions. You became the responsible one, the reliable one, the peacekeeper, the one who made sure everything got done. And sometimes it's both. You were the child who held the family together for whatever reason. Now, this often happens in families dealing with significant stress like addiction, mental illness, poverty, divorce, chronic illness, or simply parents who were overwhelmed and had no other support. Most of the time, your parent or parents were not trying to burden you. They were drowning themselves, and you were the one who learned to swim so everyone else could survive. You might have even felt proud of this role. You were the capable one, the mature one, the one people could count on. And maybe part of you still identifies with being the responsible one, the person who handles everything. But this is what may not be visible to you as a child, that this came at a cost. While you were busy being the big one or taking care of everyone else, who was taking care of you? While you were learning to manage adult emotions and responsibilities, when did you get to just be a child? The answer usually is never, or not enough, or not nearly enough. And here is what happens. That child who became responsible too soon is still inside you, still believing that if they don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart, still carrying a weight that was never theirs to carry, still unable to fully rest because rest feels like abandoning the post. So take a breath here now, and if this is resonating, just notice what's happening in your body as you hear this. There's no need to fix anything, just acknowledge. Yes, this may have been my experience. This may have happened to me. Now, from a family constellation perspective, parentification happens because family systems need balance. When parents can't fulfill their role for whatever reason, someone in the system has to step in. And often, it's the child who has the capacity, the sensitivity, and the temperament to do it. Now, this is not random. You were not chosen because you were broken or because something was wrong with you. Often, you were chosen precisely because you were strong enough, perceptive enough, capable enough. You could hold what others couldn't hold. Sometimes it's the eldest child. Sometimes it's the most sensitive one. And sometimes it's the child whose temperament made them naturally attuned to others' needs. Sometimes it's simply the child who was there in the moment when the parent couldn't be. And here is something important from family systems work. You took this on out of love. Not consciously, not with awareness, but at a deep instinctive level, children try to stabilize the family system. If taking care of your parent made them more functional, if managing your siblings kept everyone safer, if being responsible prevented chaos, you did it because you loved your family and wanted everyone to survive. And this is crucial to understand. You don't become parentified because you were weak or because you failed to have boundaries. You became parentified because you were a child in a family system that needed someone to hold what adults couldn't hold. And you were the one who could. But the system that needed you to be responsible then doesn't exist anymore. Your parent might be stable now, or they might not be stable, but you are not a child anymore. The role you played was necessary in that context, but that context may have changed. What remains is the pattern. You are still the one who takes care of everyone. You are still the one who can't say no. You are still the one who feels responsible for other people's emotions, other people's problems, and other people's lives. You are still the one who believes that if you don't hold it together, everything will fall apart. And this is all subconscious. So this is the legacy of parentification. Not what happened then, but what's still happening now. The role you can't seem to stop playing, even when no one's actually asking you to play it anymore. Now let's talk about how this shows up in your body. Because this isn't just a psychological pattern, it's a somatic one. Your body learned to hold this responsibility, and your body is still holding it. Now, breathing with me, bring your awareness to your shoulders for a moment. Just notice them. For many people that became responsible too soon, the shoulders carry enormous tension. And this is literal, the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your shoulders might be chronically tight, raised towards your ears, held in constant bracing, or you may just be noticing a tightness or an activation as you've stopped and listened to them. This is your body still holding the burden it learned to carry as a child. Even when there's nothing urgent happening, your shoulders remain in a state of holding, preparing, ready to carry whatever needs to be carried. Notice your jaw now. For many people who had to become responsible early, the jaw holds tremendous tension, and this is often connected to swallowing words. Things you couldn't say, needs you couldn't express, the no you couldn't speak when you were asked to take on more than you could. Your jaw might clench without you realizing it, especially when you're stressed or when someone needs something from you. Notice your breathing now. Does it feel full and easy, or is it shallow and restricted? Many people who were parentified develop a pattern of shallow breathing, never quite taking a full breath. And this is a nervous system state. You can't fully relax because relaxing means letting your guard down. And letting your guard down to you means something will fall apart. Notice what you notice. Sense what you sense. Feel what you feel. And now, let's tune into your belly now. Notice your belly. Some people who became responsible too soon develop chronic digestive issues, stomach tension, or a sense of carrying a weight in their gut. And this is where anxiety often lives. But it's also where the exhaustion of constant vigilance accumulates. Your whole body might feel like it's braced, ready, and on alert. Even when you're resting, even when you're on vacation or lying in bed, there's a part of your body that can't fully let go because letting go was never safe for you. Letting go meant things might fall apart, and you couldn't let that happen. Now, this is what I also notice in somatic work. People carrying tension patterns that are decades old. Body holding something that started in childhood and never stopped. So your body may still be playing the role of the responsible one, even when the conscious you might not want to be that. Now, take a moment to simply acknowledge whatever you're noticing. Not trying to release the tension, not trying to fix it. Just recognize it. And let these words drop in. My body learned to hold this, and it's still holding it. This makes sense. My body learned to hold this, and is still holding it, and this makes sense. Now you might spend a lot of energy trying to understand, why me? Why was I the one who became responsible? Why not my siblings? And why did this role fall to me? And different frameworks offer different answers. Psychology might say it's birth order, or temperament, or attachment patterns. A family constellation work might point to invisible loyalties or systemic patterns repeating across generations. Your parent might have their own explanation or might not understand it themselves. But here is the truth. We often don't fully know why certain roles emerge in family systems. We can observe patterns, we can see correlations, but the complete answer of why you specifically became the responsible child, that will always remain partially mysterious. And this is important because many people who are parentified spend enormous energy trying to understand why, as if understanding why would somehow make it different, would release them from the pattern. That may just be your conscious mind looking for closure. But I want to offer you this. You don't need to fully understand why you were given this role to begin putting down the weight of it. You don't need to know why it happened to acknowledge that it did happen, that it shaped you, and you may still be playing it out. Sometimes families operate on dynamics that are invisible even to the people within them. Sometimes parents don't consciously choose to parentify a child. It happens organically through hundreds of small moments. Sometimes siblings respond differently to the same family stress for reasons we can't fully explain. What matters more than why is this: it happened. You became responsible too soon. You carried the weight that wasn't yours to carry. And somewhere along the way, you internalized the belief that this is just who you are. The responsible one who takes care of everything, the one who can never rest, that's me. But what if that's not who you are? What if that's who you had to become? And there's a big difference here. Who you are might be someone who's capable and caring and strong, but who you had to become is someone who can't say no, who can't rest, who can't trust others to handle things, and who can't stop being responsible even when it's exhausting you. Just take a breath now and notice if there's a resistance to this idea that maybe you are not actually supposed to be responsible for everything and everyone. Notice if part of you is arguing, but if I don't do it, who will? If I stop being responsible, everything will fall apart. That may be the child speaking. The child who learned that their vigilance and responsibility kept the family safe. And that child isn't wrong. It was probably true back then, but it's not true anymore. Not in the same way. Now I want to invite you into a gentle exploration. Not to change or fix anything, but simply to explore what becomes possible when we question the belief that you must be responsible for everything. Staying present in your body now, I want you to consider this question. What would it feel like if you were not responsible for everyone and everything? What would it feel like if you were not responsible for everything and everyone? Not as a permanent state, not as something you have to achieve, just as an inquiry. What would it feel like, even for a moment, if you could put down the weight of being the responsible one? And notice what happens to your body when you consider this. For many people, the first response is anxiety. If you're not responsible, who will be? What will happen? What will fall apart? So let that anxiety be there. That may just be information about how deeply this pattern runs. And the anxiety isn't evidence that you must remain responsible. It's evidence of how long you've been carrying this role. But stay with this question. What would it feel like to not be responsible? What would open up? What would become available? Maybe you rest, fully rest. Not the surface rest where your body is still but your mind is still tracking what needs to be done. but actual rest, where you're not monitoring anything, not managing anything, and not holding anything together. Maybe you'd play, do something purely for the joy of it, without needing it to be productive or responsible or useful. Maybe you'd ask for help. Actually, let someone else carry something. Not because you're teaching them or managing them, but because you need support and you're allowing yourself to receive it. Maybe you're going to say no to a request, to a demand, and to someone else's expectation. And you'd let them figure it out themselves, trusting that they have their own capacity, even if it's uncomfortable for them to access it. Maybe you'd feel your own feelings instead of managing everyone else's. Maybe you'd cry without comforting yourself too quickly, or be angry without immediately explaining it away, or be sad without trying to fix it. What would it be like to just be? Not the one who handles everything, not the capable one, not the reliable one, just you, with your own needs, your own limits, your own life to live that is not defined by taking care of others. And just breathe into this possibility with me. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to force yourself to change. Just let yourself feel what it would be like if the weight could be put down. Notice if there's any grief here. Grief for all the years of carrying this. Grief for the childhood that was spent being responsible instead of being cared for. Grief for how exhausting this has been. Let the grief be present here with us. You don't need to fix it or move through it. Grief is simply acknowledgement of loss, and there has been a loss, significant loss. Now notice if there is anger. Anger that this happened to you. Anger at the parent who couldn't hold what they needed to hold. And anger at the family system that required a child to take on adult burdens. Anger at how long you've been carrying this. And just like the grief, the anger is valid. It doesn't need to be healed or released or transformed into forgiveness. It can just be acknowledged. Yes, this is anger about something that shouldn't have happened this way. And whatever you're noticing right now, underneath all of this, there's something quieter. Maybe a whisper of what it would feel like to live differently. To be responsible for your own life without being responsible for everyone else's. To care about people without carrying them. To support without sacrifice. And this is not about becoming irresponsible or uncaring. It's about finding a different balance. One where you matter as much as the people you take care of, where your needs are as important as everyone else's. When you're allowed to have limits and boundaries and a life of your own. Now, here is the paradox that emerges from this exploration. The moment you accept that you became responsible too soon, the moment you stop trying to force yourself to be different, that's often when change actually becomes possible. When you're constantly telling yourself you shouldn't be so responsible, you shouldn't care so much, you should have better boundaries, you're still operating from the same wound. You're trying to fix the part of you that became responsible, which is just another way of being hard on yourself for a pattern that wasn't your fault to begin with. But when you acknowledge, this happened to me, I learned this role because I had to, and I'm exhausted from playing it, you can then meet that reality with genuine acceptance rather than criticism. And that's when your nervous system can finally begin to settle. And it may be happening right now. And in that settling, organic change becomes possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. You might find yourself saying no more easily, not because you force yourself to have boundaries, but because your body simply couldn't say yes anymore, and your nervous system felt safe enough to honor that. You might find yourself asking for help, not because you practiced affirmations about being worthy, but because your system was exhausted enough to finally let someone else carry something. You might find yourself resting, not because you convinced yourself you deserved it, but because your body finally felt safe enough to put down the constant vigilance. Or you might not. Nothing might change after today. You might still be the responsible one for a while longer. But that doesn't mean you failed at healing. It just means you're exactly where you are, in the process of unwinding a pattern that's been decades in the making. So honor everything that you brought in today. Honor everything that you let go of today. And begin to bring gentle movement back into your body if you've been still. And as you return to full awareness, I want you to carry this with you. You were a child who became responsible too soon. This wasn't your choice. It wasn't your fault. It was a role that you took on because you had to, because your family system needed someone to hold what the adults could not. But you're not a child anymore. The family system that needed you to be responsible has also changed. And even if people still expect you to be the responsible one, even if they're not happy when you're not, You have a choice now that you didn't have then. You can now begin slowly, carefully, at your own pace, to put down what was never yours to carry in the first place. Not all at once, not perfectly, maybe just one small thing at a time. Just one boundary, just one no, just one moment of rest. Just one time you let something not to be your problem to solve. The child who became responsible too soon did what they had to do to survive. The child deserves acknowledgement, not criticism. That child was remarkable in their capacity, their strength, and their love. But that child doesn't have to keep playing that role forever. You can honor what they did while also recognizing, I don't have to do this anymore. Not in the same way, not at the cost of myself. Now place your hands somewhere on your body that feels grounding. It can be anywhere. Your thighs, your heart, your belly. And let's close with this recognition. Just receive my words here. I carried what I had to carry. I was responsible when I had to be responsible. And I'm allowed to put some of this down now. I am allowed to care for myself with the same dedication I've been given to caring for others. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to have limits. I am allowed to be human rather than being the one who holds everything together. And take one last full breath with me. And when you're ready, gently transition back into your day, carrying with you the possibility that the weight you've carried since childhood might finally now begin to lighten. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to explore this. Thank you for trusting me as your guide. And thank you to that child who became responsible too soon. They did what they had to do, and it's okay for them to rest now. Thank you very much for joining me, and namaste.